The history of the United States is a complex and multifaceted story. Different perspectives, from traditional mythology to postmodern colonialism, offer varying interpretations of the American experience. These viewpoints seek to establish the moral implications of the country's formation. Each narrative brings its own biases and interpretations, shaping the understanding of the nation's history. It is common for historians to interpret the American experience through a modern or postmodern lens in today's world. Many of the recent histories I have read seek to pass judgment on our history using a certain political viewpoint, but this can oversimplify the complexity of our history. In the American Almanac series, I aim to uncover the underlying events and facts that shape our past. In this respect, my goal is to be more of a historical journalist and not a narrative historian, but although my goal is to present just the facts, it is important to inform you I do have a bias as a researcher. I fundamentally believe that the United States is a force for good and the greatest provider of individual liberty in history. However, this doesn't prevent me from highlighting mistakes and challenges in our history. My goal is to provide a balanced and insightful analysis while staying true to my beliefs. I hope you enjoyed this series as much as I have enjoyed putting it together. In our first episode, we explore how the people of the Americas arrived and began populating this new world. Our distant ancestors that immigrated via boat and land bridge from other parts of the world. Over thousands of years, they went on to establish great civilizations and societies that later encounter another wave of immigrants. From Europe, it is my pleasure to present the First Peoples. The history of the United States is often traced back to the arrival of European settlers in the Americas, but it is important to acknowledge the contributions of the first immigrants to the continent, the Native Americans. Their rich and diverse cultures, languages, and traditions predate the arrival of Europeans and have significantly influenced the development of the United States. Recognizing the role of Native Americans is crucial in understanding the full history of the country. Growing up, many of us were taught that Native Americans migrated from Asia over a land bridge in the Bering Straits about 12,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age. The cultures, which emerged from this migration, spread across the continent and eventually reached as far south as modern-day Argentina. This migration and settlement pattern have formed the basis for the understanding of Native American history and cultural development in the Americas. There is no definitive, undisputed evidence of when the first Americans arrived, but it is most likely that migration happened in ebbs and flows over thousands of years. For example, a 2020 Oxford study concluded that the first Americans were likely Eastern Eurasians who arrived on the continent over 30,000 years ago, well before the mass migration from Asia. This early colonization effort may have been unsuccessful and left no genetically detectable heritage. The study was the result of a decade of work at 42 archaeological sites in North America and Beringia. These findings challenge previous theories and provide new insights into the early human history of the Americas. It is likely that many Native American cultures are much older than once believed. Archaeological sites such as Poverty Point and the LSU campus mounds were originally dated to 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. However, in 2012, Dr. Brooks Elwood conducted an analysis of evidence from the LSU campus mounds in Baton Rouge and discovered that parts of the mounds are 11,000 years old. This makes them the oldest known human-made structures in the Americas, pushing back the timeline of human settlement in the region. These findings are reshaping our understanding of the early history of America. The peopling of the Americas likely spanned many generations with many migrations by different groups and took place over thousands of years. This gave rise to many advanced cultures including the Anasazi, Aztecs, Mayans, Iroquoian, Cherokee, Navajo, and many more. While the Egyptians were constructing the Great Pyramids on the Giza Plateau, these Native Americans were building equally sophisticated pyramids and earthen mounds. Pre-Columbian North America was home to a diverse range of indigenous cultures, many of which engaged in warfare, agriculture, and spiritual rituals. Warfare was often driven by territorial disputes or efforts to secure resources. Agriculture was also widespread, with indigenous peoples cultivating a variety of crops including maize, beans, and squash. Spiritual rituals played a central role in the lives of many pre-Columbian societies, with ceremonies and rituals intended to honor and communicate with deities, spirits, and ancestors. These practices played a crucial role in shaping the cultural and social dynamics of North American indigenous societies before the arrival of Europeans. The development of advanced agricultural techniques, complex social and political structures, and extensive trade networks in pre-Columbian American societies contributed to their sophistication. This allowed them important knowledge needed by Europeans when they arrived. Without these natives and their accumulated knowledge, it is very likely the story of the United States could be very different, especially if not for the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. The Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, also known as the People of the First Light, has a rich history in present-day Massachusetts and eastern Rhode Island, spanning over 12,000 years. At their peak, the Wampanoag Nation consisted of 40,000 individuals living across 67 villages, covering the territory along the East Coast, including Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, and southeast Rhode Island. The Wampanoag people had a matrilineal system, with property ownership and hereditary status passed through the maternal line. They were matrifocal, with couples living with the woman's family after marriage. Women elders had a role in selecting chiefs. Men handled political and warfare roles, while women passed land to female descendants. They had a division of labor along gender lines when it came to food production. Men were responsible for hunting and fishing, while women took care of farming, gathering wild fruits, nuts, berries, and shellfish. Women played a significant role in up to 75% of all food production in Wampanoag societies. Natives provided valuable knowledge of the land, resources, and survival skills to the European settlers. They also served as allies and trade partners, and in many cases enemies of European settlers. All of these factors greatly impacted the development of our nation,